from the Encyclopedia, Virginia.org. Walter Ashby Plecker, born 1861, died 1947. Walter Ashby Plecker was a physician and the first Virginia Register of Vital Statistics, a position he served in from 1912 to 1946. He was a strong promoter of eugenics, a discredited movement aimed at scientifically proving non-white superiority and thereby justifying the marginalizing of non-white people. Employing Virginia's Act to Preserve Racial Integrity, 1924, Plecker effectively separated Virginia citizens into two simplified racial categories, white and colored. The law, which remained in effect until 1967, when it was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court in the cases of Loving versus Virginia, required that a racial description of every person be recorded at birth. While criminalizing marriages between whites and non-whites, Plecker's policies used defective scientific evidence to deem blacks a lesser class of human beings. But they also targeted poor whites and anyone he or other eugenics considered feeble-minded, asserting that Virginia Indians were in fact mixed-blooded Negroes. Plecker also presumed state agencies to reclassifying Indians as colored. The policy's legacy was effectively to erase Indian as an identity and made it difficult for Virginia Indians to gain state or federal recognition. The Racial Integrity Act allowed for one exception to the definition of white person, because many eminent white Virginians considered themselves to be descendants of Pocahontas and John Rolfe. The law allowed for those who had 1/16 or less of the blood of the American Indian and have no other Caucasus blood to be deemed to be white persons. Plecker feared that this loophole encouraged mixed-race Virginians who had an interest in passing as white to claim they were Indians. He therefore determined what was I? He therefore determined that there are no native-born Virginia Indians free from Negro intermixture. According to Plecker, and through him, the Commonwealth of Virginia, all Indians were now colored and not able to claim Indian identity. This put Virginia Indians in a bind, perhaps owning a recognition of the oppressed status of blacks. Indians did not want to be classified as colored. The scholar J. Douglas Smith has written, they did not want to be white, but they wanted access to the privileges of whites. They were now forced to attend all black schools. However, those standard substandard quality of U.S. Supreme Court recognized years later in Brown versus Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas, 1954, a decision that desegregated public education. In 1930, a General Assembly updated the Racial Integrity Act to define a white person using the one-drop rule. Now a colored person was anyone in whom there was assertion of any Negro blood. Already believing that all Virginia Indians were in part African American, Plecker now had the go-ahead to officially classify Indians as colored, and in effect define them out of existence. He applied to this process the smooth, polished scientific rationalism in the Washington Post, January 6, 1945. He described his efforts as tracing very carefully the etymology or ethnology of the so-called Indians in Virginia, we have been able to trace many of the persons now asserting themselves as Indians back to the census record of 1830, where their ancestors were listed as free Negroes. He went to assert that there are no descendants of Virginia Indians claiming to be reputed to be Indians and who are unmixed with Negro blood. Birth certificates prior to 1924 allow Indian to be used as a racial classification. To address this potential loophole in the law, Flicker initially amended Indian certificates by writing colored on the back. Later, he formalized the process, typing messages that included warnings to anyone who claimed a racial identity other than the one hereby assigned by the state.